Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is a beautiful, Saturday morning here in Austin, Texas. This is day, I think it's 11:52 of the 3+ minutes of planks challenge. And as always, I am filled with gratitude. It's exactly 1:54 in the morning. Went to bed a little bit earlier. Didn't sleep as long as I wanted to, but I couldn't go right back to sleep. So I said, I'm gonna knock these exercises out and then I'm gonna go back to bed until I gotta get up in the morning and do the things I gotta do. Thoughts on my mind this morning. Yesterday, after dropping off my daughter at school, I came back home and I set out on a plan to go home and do some laundry. More specifically, I was telling my daughter I needed to wash these blankets. And I was like, okay, when I get home, I'm gonna get all about it. I'm gonna go do it. And I get home and I lay in bed and I start watching this TV show, Psych, on Amazon. And I'm in and out of sleep. I'm more of a napper nowadays. So I'm in and out of sleep and I'm napping. And I wake up at one point and there's this commercial that comes on and it's about blankets for some reason. I was like, oh, okay. And I see this commercial and I'm like, okay. All right, Ron, it's time. You got to go out and go get this laundry done. And I still didn't go right out. I didn't end up going out until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And there was this prompting, like God was like, I need you to go do this. And I was feeling lazy and I was just feeling lazy. So anyway, here's another thing. Also, the laundromat in my complex, it's a bit away from me. Now, the blessing is I don't have to go anywhere else to do it. It's just in my complex, but even at times, I just don't want to do it. But the moment I drive up there, I see this gentleman standing outside the door. His name is Dwight. They call him LA. And he's like, hey man, do you mind if you let me in and teach me how to use the machines? Which I thought was sort of an odd request, especially since he lived in an apartment complex. And he says, I just got out of jail 2.5 weeks ago after 27 years. And he tells me he was in jail because he killed another man, because of something that this other man had done to his aunt, I believe. He had either killed her or hurt her dangerously. And so in that moment of rage, he acted on it. And he said he had 27 years to have to think about it. I think in a different time of my life, I wouldn't have even wanted to get into this conversation, or I would have even tried to avoid him. But in this moment, I knew that God was like, I brought you here in this moment to have this conversation with him. We sat and did laundry together. I helped him in terms of how to use the machine and things of the sort. And he was just expressing a lot of things that were going on in his mind. He was struggling because he'd gone on 11 interviews, and because of the nature of his crime, no one would hire him. They couldn't even see him, not for what he used to be, but for who he was trying to be in the moment. And the other part that was really interesting, he was a man of faith. Started telling me how after 7 years in prison, where he didn't know what he needed to do or who he was, he started reading the Bible. He actually told me an amazing story that I really didn't know before. Or I'm not even certain, I need to verify it. Talked about the story about David and Goliath and how Goliath was actually mentally impaired. They say maybe at that time he could have been autistic and things of the sort, and was also visually impaired. And it was just telling me all these dynamics of things that I didn't know about Goliath, and how even through those things, his overconfidence was the lead to his downfall. Man, it was such an amazing conversation with this gentleman. And I knew in that moment that God had me there to let him know that no matter what he's going through in this moment, no matter how hard it is, he's there for him. One of the last things he told me, he was like, I almost wish I was in prison because at least I understood what I had to do. I had food, I had a place to stay. And it was just interesting perspective. I was grateful for the conversation. Anyway, that's my thoughts for today. Thank you and be blessed.